Greetings, friends, and a peaceful welcome to Captain Samuel's Electric Leisure Dome. Today we will be enjoying a retrospective and review for Choplifter 3 on the Sega Game Gear. This game appeared on the Game Boy with different music and palette territories, but otherwise is a Game Gear exclusive. I had this game as a kid and I loved it. It's special to me because this was the first game I ever owned with excellent gameplay. Unlike most other Game Gear games, you can actually see where you're going. Furthermore, the controls are tight, the music rocks, the challenge is tough but fair, and there's a password system to continue play. It even has a 2-player hot seat mode. Yes, Choplifter 3 was the first game that ever made me go, wow, this game is amazing. I had no idea that video games could be so good. There's only one flaw to Choplifter 3, and we're going to get that out of the way now with our discussion of the box and manual. The cover art is dull and blurry. It's just a picture of a guy in a helicopter. Not very exciting or eye-catching, and it does a disservice to the outstanding gaming experience inside the box. However, uninspired cover art doesn't really bother me. No, the one issue that does bother me about this game becomes apparent when we read the back of the box. Rage, and enough napalm to fry the Amazon. That's all you need to rescue your men and wipe terrorism off the face of the earth. War is hell, and tonight you're dealing one-way tickets. As a kid, when my dad bought me a new game, I would read the manual by flashlight on the car ride home from the store. If I thought something was cool or interesting, I would read it aloud to my dad and we would discuss it. It was part of the fun of getting a new game. As a 9 or 10-year-old kid, I thought that paragraph about war was cool and exciting. I read it aloud to my dad, who is a combat veteran of the war in Vietnam. He didn't think it was so cool. He said something along the lines of, "That's pretty effed up, why play a game about war?" The rest of the ride home was spent in awkward silence. Being a kid, I didn't understand his reaction. Today as an adult, I understand his reaction and agree with it. In my introductory video to this channel, I shared that I am from the year 3485, but was shunted back in time due to exposure to black holes while working as a starship captain. Being from the future, I'll give you a little spoiler here. Do you know what the most revolutionary, cornerstone technological advancement was that put humanity sailing among the stars? Peace. World peace. In my time, humanity woke up to the fact that we cannot progress and thrive as a species until we stop blowing each other up and start building each other up. This revelation, put into practice, ushered in an age of unparalleled technological progress. I also mentioned in my channel introduction video that to earn some VA benefits in this time period, I also did a few years in the ancient military, or to you the modern military, of the United States. I was a Humvee machine gunner that did over 16,000 miles of combat missions outside the wire. The back of the box to Choplifter 3 has lines such as, "Blow those terrorists to kingdom come," and "Pull your men from the burning rubble." Having experienced the horrors of war firsthand, I don't find games with a military theme to be an enjoyable subject for entertainment. So, that's my one and only issue with Choplifter 3. It has a distasteful choice of theme. The manual discusses each of the 5 levels. The levels are distinct environments, which helps the gameplay feel fresh and interesting when a new level is unlocked. There's a desert, underground labyrinth, ocean, jungle, and city. How to play the game is described as well as the heads-up display elements of the game. Choplifter 3 also has several interesting, almost magical power-ups which are described too. Some of these could use a bit more details in their description. For example, the flamethrower has unlimited uses until you use it as a key to burn down certain special trees that block progress on the jungle level. After that, it goes away. This is also the game that taught me the difference between invincible and invisible, an important distinction to understand as Choplifter 3 has plenty of environmental hazards that aren't helped by being invisible. Now let's talk about the gameplay. Choplifter 3 is a shooter, but instead of the screen scrolling automatically through a set path through a level, the player is free to fly around left, right, up, and down. This gives Choplifter 3 an element of exploration. There's power-ups and enemies to find, of course, but what the player is really searching for is the prisoners of war, or POWs, that need rescuing. To complete a level, the player needs to rescue a level-dependent number of POWs. The player lands, or lowers a rope, and POWs scurry across the ground and board the helicopter. The helicopter can hold a maximum of about 10 POWs at a time. Once on board, if the player's ship is destroyed, all the POWs on board die too. Levels typically have a few extra POWs, but if so many POWs die that there aren't enough left on the level to meet the required number of rescues, the entire mission is failed no matter how many lives the player has left. Each mission is divided into 3 levels, and so if, say, you're on the 3rd level of the 4th mission, the jungle, and too many POWs die, you fail the entire mission and are back to level 1 of the jungle, and must replay the first 2 levels of the jungle mission to reach the 3rd level. POWs are safe when the player lands at the helipad next to the starting base and the POWs walk inside. Whenever the player drops off a load of POWs at the base, most of the enemies on the level respawn. This adds an interesting choice to the player's strategy. Do you want to play it safe and only pick up a few POWs at a time, but risk battling more enemies as they respawn between each rescue run into the level? Or would you rather do fewer runs into the level by completely filling up your helicopter with POWs, but risk failing the entire mission if your ship is destroyed with a full load? Adding to the tension and strategy is the fact that POWs can be killed in other ways. The back of the box encourages the player to play with rage, but that's a losing strategy. The player's bullets and bombs can kill POWs by accident, and letting your machine gun rip is a fast way to take out the POWs you're supposed to be rescuing. Firing your weapon actually takes precise aiming and knowing exactly how many rounds to fire off to destroy each enemy type. The POWs are desperate for rescue and often run out into the open, so it requires an expert marksman to shoot just over their heads to hit the enemy. It's a tense game of skill and precision, and I love it. Enemy fire can also kill the POWs that are frantically running about in the open. Here, however, you have a secret weapon. You see, the pilot of the chopper is a solipsistic deity. By this I mean, only that which the pilot perceives exists in time and space. When the pilot lands, you can press the left or right button to scroll the screen without moving the helicopter. What scrolls off screen no longer exists. So if there's a tank on the edge of the screen firing at you, and the POWs as they make their way towards you, simply scroll the tank off screen. It no longer exists and is therefore unable to fire at you. This doesn't work for all the enemies, as I suppose this battlefield is polytheistic, but it does for most of them. I really love doing this. It's such a weird power to have in a game, and I enjoy using it. Oh, by the way, thanks for causing me to exist by watching my videos. On to the controls. Button 1 fires the machine gun, Button 2 uses the selected special weapon or ability, and Start pauses the game so the player can then cycle through the available special weapons and abilities. Choplifter 3 would benefit from a third button to rotate the helicopter. The helicopter can face left, right, or directly towards the person playing the game. In this head-on position, the helicopter fires down. Due to a lack of buttons, the way changing the facing of the helicopter is handled is to tap the D-pad. This takes some getting used to, as sometimes when trying to carefully line up a shot by tapping the D-pad to adjust the chopper's fire, the player winds up accidentally rotating the helicopter into a different facing. Other than getting used to this one idiosyncrasy in the controls, everything else is tight and responsive. The chopper is maneuverable and just the right speed. This is a good thing, because the levels are full of environmental hazards. Storm clouds, constricted cavern passages, ivory bopper thingies, erupting volcanoes, and overgrown jungles all require careful movement. Bumping into terrain or obstacles damages the chopper and causes it to shake around uncontrollably. You can even die by colliding repeatedly with your home base. Sometimes I crash into it on purpose and then pretend it was an accident as a joke to give my girlfriend a chance to play when we enjoyed Choplifter 3 together. Yes, that's right. Choplifter 3 offers a 2-player hot seat mode. No second copy of the game, or link a cable required here, friends. Simply pass your Retro 6 Game Gear, or controller if you're playing on a Retron 5, back and forth as you each work your way through the game. Each player's progress through the levels is tracked separately. Unfortunately, once a player completes a level, the other player doesn't get a turn. A player keeps playing until they lose a life. This created some unintentional trolling when playing with my girlfriend. I wasn't aware of this feature and happened to be player 1. I played halfway through the game while she just sat there until I died on purpose to give her a turn. Being unfamiliar with the game as it was her first time playing it, she crashed almost immediately and then sat by while I polished off another mission. So the 2-player experience is flawed in that regard. Choplifter 3 also distinguishes itself from other Game Gear games with 2 noteworthy features. First, the sprites are small enough so that plenty of space is visible around the player's helicopter. So many Game Gear games struggle to give the player enough space visible on screen, resulting in blind jumps and crashing into unseen enemies. Choplifter 3 is a delight to play on Game Gear because you can actually see where you're going. Second, many Game Gear games require a player to complete them in one sitting, start to finish. Turn the console off and all progress is lost. Choplifter 3 offers a password system between each mission. It's excellent to be able to pick up about where you left off at the start of each mission. The password system also allows the game to be longer with more content. Finally, I'll wrap up with a discussion of the music. The music has a few somber pieces that can be a bit catchy, but it features several pieces of energetic, exciting music that I love. The desert theme sounds like it could be a tapping riff on an electric guitar. The jungle theme is wild heavy metal, and the title track has a nice groove to it. Choplifter 3 on Game Gear is an excellent hidden gem for the system. You can see where you're going, it has a password system, the gameplay is tense and exciting, it has a 2-player hot seat mode, the music rocks, and the controls are tight and responsive. Choplifter 3 on Game Gear gets a rating of A from me. It would be an S-tier game, except I don't like the military war theme. If this game was reskinned as something more peaceful, say, a wizard cat flying around to collect her lost kittens, or Buckethead floating around recruiting sentient guitars for his band, then it would absolutely be an S. Though it's lost in the militarism of these ancient times, it is otherwise an exceptionally well-crafted experience relative to the rest of the Game Gear library.